One kid killing the parents is a bad seed. Two kids killing the parents is a bad family.
Were you suspended from Princeton?
Yes.
And were you suspended from Princeton because you copied another student's work and turned it in as your own?
Yes.
Did you call your dad and tell you that you were in trouble because of that?
Did I call and tell him?
Yes.
Yes.
And what was his reaction?
He didn't think I was even serious when I called him and explained to him. I didn't want to call him. I was very nervous about it. My Aunt Terry said, no, you got to tell your dad this is serious. And,
was he upset at the idea of you being thrown out of Princeton? Or suspended?
Oh, very much so, yeah.
Was he upset because you had cheated?
No, he didn't think that, he didn't think that I had cheated. He basically thought it was a joke and that they could jeopardize his son's life over a lab report was beyond his comprehension, and thought that the hearing was just supposed to be just like one of those things that just gets to that point, you go through the motions and then it's over with. And then when I got suspended, he was shocked and immediately flew to Princeton to meet with the president to get him to reverse it. And the president wouldn't do that, and although he met with my dad. And my dad just thought the Princeton system was screwed up.
Why?
Because I was there to meet people, make contacts, get the degree, and that the president of the university should realize that, and that's why he's the president supposedly, and it's not about doing lab reports.
But you were suspended.
Yes, I copied the guy's work.
I'm sorry?
I copied he was my lab partner, but I copied his work, and so I got suspended for a year.
And when was that?
That was January of '88.
And did you stay away from school for a year then?
Yes.
And you returned in January of '89?
Yes.
Or February of '89?
Yeah, February, I think it starts.
During that period of time, did you go to work for your dad?
Yes.
And how long did you work for your dad?
A few months, like 2.5 months.
Now, was
maybe
this,
3 months at the most.
Was this during the summer?
Yes.
And were you working full-time?
No. 4 hours in the morning.
And what was your job title?
Didn't really have a title. I was just sort of a management trainee.
What type of jobs did your dad give you?
I had a bunch of different projects that I was supposed to complete. I was supposed to, the business was paper-oriented. The whole accounting system was done on paper, and I was supposed to figure out a way to computerize the accounting department.
Did you know anything about accounting?
No, but my dad was a CPA, so it was a big interest of his, and he felt that his company should be done on computers, although he didn't know anything about computers, and I didn't know anything about computers either.
So you didn't know anything about accounting, right?
Right.
You didn't know anything about computers?
Right.
Did you know intimately about your dad's business?
No, but I was involved in meetings and things like that, so I got an understanding.
Did you have either the knowledge or the skills to accomplish this job?
No, I failed that job pretty miserably, although I did meet with all the accounting people, and they were pretty annoyed that I was taking their time. And I tried to work out the spreadsheets and figure it out. But I didn't get anywhere.
Did the accounting people seem to resent you being there?
Oh, yes.
Okay. What other
Sure.
projects did you have there?
I was in charge of, the worst one was I was in charge of reviewing the expense statements of the distributors in the field, what they spent on food and tolls, and check it over and see if I thought there were things that seemed improper or excessive. And they had ways to check if I needed to go that far, and then single out the ones that seemed to be different from others and excessive and report them.
Why do you say that was the worst one?
Because it was I felt like I was prying into, I just felt like it was no business of mine. It was just an awful job to have to do over people's expenses statements and figure out which ones are being excessive. And these people, knowing my dad, these people would be fired or demoted or something of that sort. And so it was an awful job, and basically it was a short one because I seemed to think that everything was in order.
Did you have a number of other projects while you were there without naming them? Did you just have a number of other projects?
Yes.
Were you trained to do, did you have the training or the experience or the knowledge to do any of the projects you were given?
No.
Did you succeed at anything you did that summer working for your dad?
No, it was basically getting in the way.
And how about the people you worked around? Did they like you? Did they appreciate your presence?
No, I mean, obviously they resented me, and I was just the chairman's son, and they actually gave me an office in the executive section, and I had to write reports on the state of the company as to how people were doing and walk around and talk to people, and nobody wanted to talk to me.
Did you get to observe your dad around the other people at work?
Yes.
Did they seem to like him and be comfortable around him?
Oh, no, they were. No, it was basically like a company ruled, like a little fiefdom, and he was sort of at the top, and everybody else was like equal underneath him. And they barely got moments with my dad, but when he came in, everybody would be quiet, scurry into their offices, and the meetings were just incredible amount of pressure for everybody, including myself. He was very, he humiliated. I saw him humiliate people. I saw him dismiss people, not answer them when they asked him a question if he didn't feel it was worthy of an answer.
Yeah.
And he just, he was the guy that made things happen. He was like the Wonder Boy, and he really was. It was like magic what he did, and the stock just skyrocketed. So, they paid him millions of dollars. And
Did he seem to, were there some people that he treated with respect?
Well, he brought, yes, somewhat. The people he brought from New York, who were, I guess, used to this kind of behavior, people he brought a couple people from New York, and he would treat them a little bit more respect.
Do people seem to be afraid of him?
Oh, they were terrified of my dad. I mean, he was really, they didn't want to get fired, but they didn't want to get humiliated or cut down. And
How did this compare to your home?
compared to my home,
Yeah.
well, it wasn't as, I mean, he didn't treat them as bad as, it wasn't as bad as the home, but it was, I didn't see him hit anybody or anything like that, but he just, it was just a state of, it was like a oppressed state at the office, so in that way it was similar.
Over the course of your life, did you see your dad in social settings?
Yeah,
Around relatives and
yes.
friends? Did he seem to be somebody who was in control in those situations also?
I wouldn't say he was in control. He just, when he was there, it was just a different atmosphere. And my dad was it was like a lonely, it seemed like a very lonely existence. In fact, I talked to him about the fact that it was a lonely existence, because people were afraid to talk to him. And then he would come into a room, people kind of be quiet. I see him with family gatherings, and people kind of move out of the way. And adults, sometimes, and the little kids were scared of him. Sometimes, like one of the female cousins would be willing to come up close to him and talk, and he would be very flirtatious and charming. But it was very much a tense sort of atmosphere around him, always.
Your parents moved to California in 1986, is that correct?
Yes.
End of the summer?
I think it was earlier, a little bit earlier. I think it was before the end of the summer, but it could have been the end of the summer.
Sometime in the summer of 1986? Yes. And you stayed in New Jersey?
Yes.
And you're now 18 years old, is that correct?
Right.
And did you stay living in the Mountain Avenue house?
To clarify,
Mountain View
age
house.
18 was in 1986.
Correct.
I said now.
Oh, I'm sorry, Your Honor. Thank you. 1986, you're 18 years old. Did you stay living in the Mountain View house?
Yes.
And did you take over things like paying the utilities, the phone, running the house?
No. We had just moved our things in, and my mom settled in, and then the family left home. And the home was still there, and the things were still there, but the family wasn't. And I was still there because I was supposed to go to school that fall. So I stayed there.
And who took care of the running of the house, the paying the bills, that type of thing?
My mom did.
And
she ran all the family's finances, expenses. Everything was left up to my mother, except one credit card of my dad's that he handled through the office, because he couldn't afford to have her miss payments and things like that.
And did she miss payments often?
All the time, yeah.
And when you were living in this house in Princeton, and they're in California, did she miss payments with regard to utilities and phone and things like that?
Yeah, the phone would go off, the lights would just go out, no electricity. We didn't have electricity for a few weeks in the winter. At one point, the phone I would usually try and get back on right away. She just, she was really in bad shape that fall. And I think whenever she got into those states of real depressed, sort of overwhelmed states, I think that was the cause of missing the bills.
Why was she in real bad shape that fall?
Because of my father's affairs. she had discovered, and she was suicidal.
What do you mean she had discovered?
Well, apparently she had discovered him because she would, you know, it was Louise. She would constantly be yelling about Louise, hounding my dad with pictures that she had taken personally of Louise in New York, her walking down streets and stuff. Credit card receipts all spread out of Louise's, you know, things my dad had supposedly bought for Louise. And, trying to track him down around the world, because I guess he and Louise met around the world. And she was just, you know, really crazed with this. And
Are you talking about just the fall of '86, or?
no, this continued for about a year and a half. A year. I mean, she would always bring it up, but the really just attacking my dad, suicidal behavior was more of that period. Then it sort of changed a little.
And how would you know that she was in this kind of shape? Did you see it, or?
Well, my brother would call me continually,
Was he upset?
frightened about her behavior or what she had done, or he was always upset about it, as far as being depressed about it. And I would see it whenever I flew out there, which was pretty frequently.
And did they fly back? Did your parents fly back pretty often during this period?
Very often. You know, our home was Princeton, basically, and that's where I was. That's where my Aunt Terry lived, all our relatives, where I went to school. That's where everybody was. And so they had moved to California, so they continually came back. My dad would pop in all the time, not all the time, unexpected, I would say, at the very least once a month, but sometimes more than that. Just show up at my Aunt Terry's house, because he would have business meetings in New York or in different areas, and then would always stop by.
How often were you talking to your father on the phone during, say, the period of 1986? For the year after they moved, how often were you talking to your dad on the phone?
I talked to my dad a couple times a week.
And what about your mom?
I didn't have a lot of conversations with my mom, but I would be at Aunt Terry's and she would be calling constantly.
And did they seem to be asking questions about what you were doing or what was going on?
Well, with my dad.
Rephrase the question, please.
In your conversations with your father, what would be the subject matter?
Pretty much the same as it had always been. Just exactly what I was doing with sports. Probably more detail than usual, since he was kind of far away. And I got the feeling that he wanted to know more exactly what I was up to, as far as, you know, if I was changing if the coaches were changing my strategies that he didn't like, or he just was seemed to be concerned that I might drift off into some strange strategy or something that he didn't like. So I pretty much kept him up to date week to week. That's exactly what was going on.
And you said that you had conversations with him about what was going on in school and what papers, that kind of thing?
Yes.
At some point, did you get a call from your brother Erik that he'd found a particular letter that
Yes.
was upsetting to him?
Yes.
And do you remember when that was?
That was in right after I'd broken up with Stacy that fall.
So this would have been
Right before I met Jamie.
So this would have been fall of '86?
Right.
And what did your brother tell you?
Objection, hearsay.
Is it being offered for the truth?
No, for state of mind, Your Honor. Did your brother read a letter to you?
Yes.
And was that letter written by your mother?
Yes.
And what did that letter say, basically?
Basically said that she had no other way out. that she couldn't handle the shame of a divorce from Dad, that her one of the something about that her fury that her mother had allowed herself to get a divorce, and it had ruined her childhood in a sense, and she was sort of an outcast because of that, and she would not allow that to happen, and so she was sorry that she had to take this way out, and that she was leaving, and that she realized that Jose, my dad, never loved her, and got what he needed from Louise, and she couldn't give it to him, and she was tired of it, so she was checking out. That's basically what she was saying. And
what did that letter mean to you?
Well, I thought it was clearly a suicide letter. She wasn't just leaving town, and my brother didn't realize that at first, and I felt I should tell him that's what I thought it was.
Did you do anything?
With regards to my mom?
Yes.
Yeah. I told Erik that I would, to put the letter, he had just found it, and so I told him to just put it back where he found it on the coffee table thing with the books, and pretend that he hadn't found it, and that I would try, and I would talk to Mom, and we would try to lift her spirits and tell her that we would side with her in a divorce and let her realize that that's what she should do. And so that's what I told him I would do, and that's what I did.
And did she express appreciation for your concern?
No, she was just extremely upset and accusatory that I was trying to break up her marriage. How could I suggest that she was unhappy? She said she never regretted a day of being married to my father.
Did you know she was seeing a therapist at the time?
Yes.
And did she say anything to you about pills that she was taking? And I'm talking about the period between 86 and 89. Did you ever have a conversation with her about pills she was taking?
Yes.
What did she say to you with regard to that?
She said that she was taking, this was at my Aunt Terry's house, and she said that she was taking 13 pills a day, and she showed them to me.
Whose fault was it she was taking those pills?
There's a cause for speculation.
Did she tell you?
Yeah, she told me that that I had to start doing better and stop upsetting my dad so much because he was coming down on her, and the whole thing was causing her so much stress. She was having to take these pills. It was actually a nice conversation.
What was nice about it?
Well, she was, my mother never reached out to me, and she came to me and said, and she looked very, very sad, and wanted my help to help her not have to take these pills, basically. And I tried to tell her that, I thought things would be fine, and there had been a lot of stressful times that spring, but I thought things were going fine.
Did you know that all of this was because of the affair?
There's a cause for speculation.
Rephrase the question.
Did you have information based on what your brother had told you and what you'd seen that her condition was because of finding...
Right, I knew that I knew that it was because of Louise, and...
But she was saying it was because of you.
Right, but...
Why was that nice?
Because she was reaching out to me.
At some point during this period from 86 to 89, did your brother tell you your mother bought a rifle?
Hearsay,
Sustained.
This is state of mind.
All right. I'm sorry?
Irrelevant.
All right,
Did your brother tell you at some point in time that you
Yes.
bought a rifle?
Yes, in the summer of '88.
And did your mother have guns already?
Yes.
What kind of guns did she have already?
She had her rifles.
Were you concerned about the fact that she'd bought this rifle?
Yes.
Why?
Well, because I felt this whole period she was very much out of control, and she was having the same rages. She was extremely unstable, and seemed to be having that conflict with Louise with my dad, and very mad at the world, and was buying a new rifle, and I was concerned.